penalty, is it? No, he's still going. Oh, how about that? How about that?
Carried on into the penalty area. Here he is. And then Giroud. What a goal. Brilliantly worked. Fantastically finished.
Well, here's Ramsey. And Alexis Sanchez. Great footwork. 3-0. Liverpool blown away. A 3-goal, 8-minute Arsenal blast. Alexis blocked by Newcastle defender. Still not cleared. Wow, what a volley. Where others failed, Ozil has succeeded. Well done, Arteta. Plenty of hit here. Yes! Arsenal have their breakthrough. Mikel Arteta. They deserve it. Oh, they're behind again. It's amazing. It's Aaron Ramsey. That's the response of Arsenal. Andy Iwobi, nicely done. Brilliantly done. Bayern Walcott. Sensational Arsenal goal. Is that a handball? No. Nothing the play can do. Great, what a goal! Arsenal have made it 3-0. Jack Wilshere with an absolute thunderbolt.
That's it. That's it. We're live. No, we're not. Are we live?
We're in the corner, Darren.
I was just about to get it all right, and it looks like I'm muted, but I'm not. Of course, I'm not. I'm sober though. Wellish. Welcome to Thursday Night Live, a podcast and a live show from the Clock End Talk. Welcome as usual by Liam. Hello, mate.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Oh yeah, good. Oh God, he sounds miserable, doesn't he? We just won 3-0.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine now, Liam. And Max, welcome. Max, welcome all the way from sunny Australia.
Mate, I've got some terrible laggy internet today, but no, I'm good. I'm back to work, which is very exciting. The bar's back open, very limited, but the bar's open after 7 months of closure. I'm very happy. And I just got to watch a game of football where at the end of the game of football, I have positive things to say. I'm positive. So I'm excited. Let's talk football.
It's an interesting one this week because this is a week where I just lose all my faith in Arsenal supporters. I don't like Arsenal supporters. I really don't. You know, I mean, I find, well, you know, that's a generalisation. It's a very sweeping statement. But I find that Arsenal supporters are just the worst supporters around. You know, we've got a new manager. He's in his first year. He's in his first full season. He hasn't had a pre-season. We've just lost to the top two teams from last year and the team that finished above us in the league. And there was, you know, I saw everywhere. I don't do a lot on Twitter, but everywhere I saw WhatsApp groups everywhere. Last night's Clock End Talk podcast, the review show. You know, I heard the words Arteta out. Are our fans absolutely bonkers? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I guess I was quite positive after the game. I know I said I have some thoughts to share. I mean, of course, disappointed to lose the game, so I understand the frustration, but I can see things where we're progressing, and I could see different things we were trying to do, and you know, all right, it doesn't work, and we haven't got the greatest squad in the world. But you know what? I can see what we were trying to do at least, and I can see we're at least sort of trying to progress a little bit, and you know, things will work, things won't work, but yeah, it was doom and gloom, like we'd just got relegated.
Yeah, Max. Look, I don't want to. I do want to talk about the weekend. I do want to talk about Leicester City. I do want to talk about the comments Arteta out. I do want to talk about it. I think there's a lot that we can discuss. But we have just come straight. All three of us come straight, I'm sure, from watching an Arsenal performance, a reserve side against Arsenal. You know, and you know, we won the game 3-0. So let me ask you, Max. Let's talk about tonight, because tonight's fresh in our minds. We've just all watched us. Everyone watching, everyone listening. We've just seen Arsenal beat Dundalk by 3-0. What can we take out of tonight's game, Max?
Lots and lots. And I've just come off a 30-minute argument with my fellow guys from the Arse Brothers, where half of us are really excited about that, and the other half are still down in the dumps, like saying it was boring as batshit, and you know, what were we meant to do in that case, and complaining about the lineups and stuff like that. And I actually think that the two, the Leicester game and the Dundalk game, there's a real line of commentary between those two teams. Because what we just saw, the thing that got me excited, and like I've already been yelled at this by my friends, so you guys can go nuts to do it as well. I don't care that it's Dundalk, right? I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to judge the team on the fact that they just played Dundalk. I'm not going to use the phrase, it was only Dundalk. That's fucking stupid, right? I hate that phrase because we've gone to, Boltons in the past and lost, and Blackburns in the past and lost, and Sheffields and lost or played poorly. So you've got to go out and play a certain way. The thing in the Leicester game that annoyed the shit out of me, and I wasn't all doom and gloom, and I know I'm talking about the Dundalk game, but the two, like I said, they have synergies. The thing that pissed me off was how poor the tempo was. The tempo was so bad. The pass and move was so bad, and that's what frustrated me about it. This game, you go and see a player like Reece Nelson come in, who is not as good as Aubameyang. Anyone who's going to make an argument to say Reece Nelson is a better footballer than Aubameyang is highly flawed. But what you saw in this game is what happens when you have a technical winger in a wide position whose sole thought is pass, move, run, return. Full energy, full effort. Joe Willock in the middle of the park, full energy, full effort. I know these guys have never proved themselves to be consistent at Premier League level. And I'm not calling for these guys all of a sudden to get thrown in and Ceballos to be dropped for Willock and Aubameyang to be dropped for Reece Nelson. What I will say is Mikel Arteta should be going into his next coaching video session, sitting down with some of those top players and saying, do you see this level of effort? Do you see this level of running? Repeat runs, return runs, fast movement, pass and move. And lo and behold, what do we see on the other side? Once we start upping the tempo, moving the ball, and start interchanging in some positions in the front three, you see Nicola Pepe all of a sudden come in. And even though he fucks a lot of shit up, right? He is a shit fucker-upper. That is like the title that I will give him. But he has so much ability that in a game, he might have 7 or 8 fuck-ups and 3 pieces of just magic because his technique is so strong. And that's why I'm excited about the game, because it is the anti-Leicester that we just watched. And I hope it puts one up some of these top 11 players on their big wages to say, go fucking run, you lazy piece of shit.
Liam, I can't really argue with Max, because what I saw tonight was our 2 overpaid strikers on sidelines laughing, joking like they do when we just lost against Manchester City. And we saw players on that park tonight. And, we were playing Dundalk and whatever Max says, it is like playing a 3rd division side at home. However, we had Pepe, we had Nelson, we had all of these players that actually were trying things all night long. Pepe, they tried things. They tried to beat players. They tried to think. When we look back at the weekend and you just see Leicester sitting back and us just play the ball around in that second half, pass it along the back four, pass it along the back four, put it into midfield, pass it back along the back four. Are you with Max that it was kind of exciting tonight that we showed that we actually got some players with some real talent, that all they wanted to do tonight was just prove themselves?
Yeah, a little bit of that, and a little bit that Arteta's quite happy for us to break the mould and just go for teams a little bit more. I mean, all right, again, we talk about, or Max briefly mentions who we're playing as he doesn't care about it. Maybe he does think, well, we can go for a team like Dundalk because we're going to have so much of the ball. But anyway, I take it from a bit of a coach's perspective, in the sense that I look at what we're trying to do. What's the intent of these guys? Yeah, Nelson was great. He drove. He was brilliant. Like you said, you have a natural wing on that side. He passes the ball. He runs. He drives. Great. He's a bit loose on the ball sometimes. He doesn't quite have the technical security. But then you sort of see where he is compared to, I don't know, Willock in his development, where Willock's a bit closer to that first team for me, just because he did more with the ball that worked. So Nelson, for me, gets to the byline, he crosses the ball, but it's a poor cross. He's not picked the right type of cross. But Willock's getting in the right areas and he's making the right choices. We're starting to, at least. So for me, I was looking at this as more of a, who's a bit closer to that first 11 in the Premier League, more than I was how many goals are we going to put past them, which I think most fans tended to.
I'm quite well known, Max. I'll come to you. I'm quite well known for some outrageous statements, just to wind people up. I've been a defender of Lacazette over the last 6-8 months because I thought he got unfair criticism when he was playing well. And when he has such a terrible game like he did at the weekend, and I mean absolutely terrible, everything he did, I saw more in Balogun tonight in 15 minutes holding the ball up against Dundalk than I did in the last, 270 minutes of watching Lacazette. I watched a guy actually put his body in the right way, have first touch and pass it back to someone, hold the ball up. Jesus Christ, I hope that was a kick in the arse for a lot of that first teamers. Max, you wanted to come back.
No, you've literally just driven home what I was about to say. It's not about whether or not looking at Nelson and looking at Willock and looking at Balogun and talking about whether or not they should be pushing for the first team. It's not the conversation. It's about how much their effort has shown up the guys in the first team, how much it throws into light that Lacazette isn't emotionally connected, how much it throws into light that what you said last week, I kind of brushed off when you were talking about Aubameyang, laughing with the guys last week, because I didn't see it and it didn't emotionally trigger me. But, after it started to emotionally trigger me more, like the more I thought about it, the more it started to piss me off. And then in this game, for some reason, it's pissed me off even more. Like I'm more pissed off at Lacazette. I'm more pissed off at Aubameyang. I'm more pissed off at these guys for not wanting to do that, for not wanting to do what those kids have just done. And you know what they wanted to do? They wanted to fucking win because it was important to them to win because they want to get in the team. I think you've got 11 players in the Arsenal team right now who are very entitled on their big wages, on their big contracts, have played at international level, have played at Champions League level, and don't seem to want to just do that what you were talking about last week, Darren, that 5% more or that 10% more, or be so filthy, so absolutely filthy, right, that they didn't get the win. And I brought this theory up with my brother, and I wish I had to come up with it on last week's show and you're talking about it. I reckon it's heavily to do with the crowds, heavily to do with not having crowds there. A lot of these young kids, they're used to playing under 21s. Very few crowds, no crowds. They're used to going out and delivering and not taking their feeding and their egos off the people around them, not scoring goals and doing front flips and running into the crowd and saying, I am Aubameyang, look at me. I think there's a huge difference there. I think that these kids, that their desire, their motivation, obviously they have so much more motivation right now than what a lot of these set, entitled first 11 players seem to be expressing. And like I said at the start, for me, it's not about the individual performance. It's about how much it shows up. Just to take an example like what Darren said, it shows up Lacazette's performance last week. It shows him up for not achieving, not trying, not being good enough, and not wanting to win enough.
Good point. Like everything you said, Max. Liam, you want to come back?
Yeah, it just got me thinking. The sort of two sides that we put out are almost chalk and cheese in the sense, the way you're speaking, Max, in that the whole first 11 that started the Leicester game, or generally as the Premier League team, they tend to be the guys that are a bit more emotionless, but are actually good footballers. Aubameyang, we're saying he's emotionless, but fuck me, he's a good footballer, isn't he? But we haven't got the same in this team that just played Dundalk. So for me, there's not quite the blend, and I'd be fascinated to see if can we bring in Willock and Nelson and take out high earners. Like I say, high earners loosely, as in
They're all high
Willian.
earners.
Well, yeah. That's why I say loosely, but as in the Willian. Bring Nelson in for Willian, bring Willock in for Xhaka, and then see, does that change the dynamic of the team that plays in the Premier League?
I mean, Arteta, look, we need to question some things that Arteta's done over the last, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We do need to question that. That's our job. We're supporters. It is our job to say what we think, say what we think he's doing right, say what we think he's doing wrong. But a lot of the criticism that he received after the Leicester game and the Manchester City game is that the players, were so structured, so structured that they were frightened to move, that he had them in such strict rules that they have lost their freedom and they're just playing it around at the back. That was Arteta's team again last night. That was Arteta's team tonight. Surely it's the same team talk. Surely it's the same. Surely he's asking them to express themselves. But I don't know why the players are so nervous. I just want to pick up on a point. We just had a first question in. It's from Rohan, who said they were Arteta out on the pod. I remember Tony saying he isn't. Let me put this right. I listened to the first hour of last night's excellent Clock End Talk review show. And I'm not saying that they were going, oh, Arteta out, Arteta out. But Addy, Tony and Tez, all three of them said, I'm not saying Arteta out, but. I'm not saying Arteta out, but. I'm not saying Arteta out, but. Yeah, all three of them repeatedly through the pod. There was a sense in that, we're not saying Arteta out, but if you don't fucking sort things out, we want to get rid of him. He's got to go. And that was the tone of last night's podcast. That was the tone of Twitter. That was the tone of most of the social media groups. The fans are bonkers. So, no, they weren't saying Arteta out, but they were actually mentioning it 6 games into the season after we just lost our 3rd game against a team that once again finished above us. We're going to realise that the players that we've got in that first team maybe aren't that good. He's improved them, he's structured them, he's stopped them letting in loads of goals. But sometimes when you look at that team, you've got to look. It was a very, very poor performance by Aubameyang. Very poor performance by Lacazette. Yeah. Very, very average performance, bad performance by Ceballos.
Ceballos' worst game in an Arsenal shirt for me.
But you could go through that team player by player, and sometimes you've just got to, the buck's got to stop somewhere. Are they restricted? Possibly. But there was no desire to do anything special.
No leadership on the pitch either. Absolutely none. And again, it's why I got upset after what you had spoken about last week when I wasn't upset at the time. But in that Leicester game, I was so pissed off that no one was walking around grabbing people by the scruff of the neck. Thomas Partey, there's 3 stills of Thomas Partey looking at Xhaka with his hands open and looking at Ceballos and pointing, going like, move forward. This guy's come from Atletico Madrid. This guy's come from a structured team. But he's used to having people around him do things. You've got to get on our new show, Darren, and vent. The Ask Bros Extreme on Wednesdays. We recorded the first one yesterday, and we basically went right through this. We had a massive pop at fans. We had a pop at both pro-Arteta and negative Arteta factions. Because the people who say you can't touch him are wrong. You have to criticize him. There are things wrong. And the people saying, he's garbage and he should go are wrong as well. This is a rebuild. This is a team that finished 8th last season. There wasn't some magical reason why we finished 8th. We weren't hard done by. The squad is poor. The players were average and we'd been mismanaged. We're now the 2nd best defensive team in the league. And I think we're like the 4th worst attacking team in the league. What we have to see now from Arteta is we have to see that he spent all this time, I think, almost essentially putting the handbrake on Arsenal, just dabbing the brakes on Arsenal a little bit and saying, let's not lose while we're working out how to change the entire fucking ethos of the club. The ethos that has been in the club for over a decade, which is defense is the last of our priorities. Holding the ball, being secure, being structured is the last of our priorities. I see these Arsenal fans, Darren, annoys the shit out of me. You're the same fuckers who were losing it, saying we couldn't defend and we were leaky and we were going forward and 10 people in the box and Aaron Ramsey is shit and Sanchez is shit and Ozil is shit and they don't defend and they're not structured. And now that we're structured, it's the same part of the fan base saying we're overly structured, the handbrake is on. It's going to be a process. And I am not absolving Arteta from that part of the process. He has now structured the team. His job, his role as a coach, his role as a manager now is to find a way to get some synergies and some balance between going forward and going backwards. What I hope we just saw against Dundalk was him using a fixture against Dundalk, like Liam said, where maybe they're not going to have as much threat, but using that system to put the piece on the puzzle and say, when teams are in low blocks, this is how we pass and move. This is how you break them down. You pass, move with pace, with tempo, with effort. And if you lose the ball, you break your fucking neck to get back. Very exciting.
Max, okay, I understand and agree with everything, which is a real annoying thing because I actually like to argue on this podcast. Here's maybe a criticism of Arteta. Liam, jump in whenever. This is maybe a criticism of Arteta. Last week in the Europa League, same time last week, I was in a pub watching it. Same time last week, Arteta played pretty much a first team, toughest game in the group away. Rapid Vienna? Toughest game in the group, put his big guns out. We struggled, same sort of performance. Is there a concern that Arteta just doesn't have faith in any of our youngsters? And I'm not saying have faith like in the future, but he just seems to rely completely on the experience. Reiss Nelson hasn't had a kick this year. Joe Willock hasn't played a minute of Premiership football this year. The only one really is Saka, and to a certain extent, he's undroppable because he's been a bright spark in that team. Didn't we all talk towards the end of last season when we looked at this group of kids, Maitland-Niles, Nelson, Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe, and I was very keen on the podcast to say, look, I'm sick and tired of these high-paid earners who just don't care anymore, who just turn up, do what the minimum they need to do. I would much rather us finish mid-table and blood 8 or 10 youngsters than finish mid-table with all of our overpaid superstars. And that's what I think we're faced with this year. Unless we change this up, unless he gives some energy into that team, I can't see much changing. Liam, did you want to come in?
No, I think the thing that Arteta, I think, values the most is technical security in a player. Someone who's going to look after the ball. And I know that sounds funny when Lacazette's the one who's picking up front. But when I looked at the game today, right, Nelson, fantastic in the way he drive forward and how he got into the final third and how he got into the box. Final ball, though, was, in my opinion, quite poor. I thought he didn't cross it particularly well. And I think a lot of the time he picked the wrong type of cross. So, okay, I can see why he's maybe not getting in the team. Willock was better, but we've generally thought of him as a bit too loose with the ball, not quite good enough with his passing. So I think that's why he wasn't quite getting in the team. Nketiah, still a bit raw. I think there's something there, but I don't see him quite being the poacher or getting the good efforts on goal that you might expect from Lacazette or Aubameyang down the middle. So I think that's what Arteta's valuing, because I can see what he was trying to do against Leicester. I think his team selection was quite poor and he put players in the wrong places. So there is a slight overtrust, but I can see also why he's not quite trusting the younger players either.
Yeah, okay, fair points. I mean, Max, listening to what Liam says there, would you rather see, look how much talent that Pepe's got. Look at that goal he scored tonight. I mean, he rolled that ball forward and spanked it. I haven't seen a goal like that since Thierry Henry was knocking them in for fun. I mean, it was a superb goal. When you see Willock have an absolute man of the match performance, outstanding. When you see Reiss Nelson using 100 step overs and then a burst of speed to get to the byline, I don't give a fuck what he does with it after that. That's going to come if he gets them game time.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you rather pay money to watch that than to watch what we've watched in the last few weeks?
Yeah, and this is the problem with the partisan fan base, and this is what we're saying on the Wednesday Extreme on the Ars Bros. Everyone's one side or the other. Everyone's drawn their battle lines. Everyone's kind of in their trenches on either side of the Western Front, and it's, pro Arteta and negative Arteta and pro Leno or pro Martinez. So it's really difficult because I think in a way Mikel Arteta understands he's a bit damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. And on the Willocks and the Nelsons and why they're not getting a run, Joe Willock had, I think it was like 26 starts last season for 36 games or something like that, and did a grand total of sweet fuck all. A lot of us were calling him to go out on loan, go out to Germany, go get some time under his belt. And we are looking at a game where they have proven against, like we said, a lower opposition, but they've proven that they have the athletic attributes that the guys in their first team position don't have. And what we just saw there was that their athleticism in that game outweighed the fact that they have a bit of a lack of technicality. Now, I agree with Liam. Reece Nelson doesn't make fantastic final ball decisions. Joe Willock has been historically someone who loses the ball in midfield and turns us over in transitions. Would I bring them in against Man U? Probably not. Probably not the game to come in and tear it all up and say, we're going to do this. But I look to things like Mikel Arteta's substitutions, and I look to things like, okay, it's 60 minutes and you're a goal down. That's when I would look to bring these guys on. And that's when I'd look to bring them on with the mandate to say, we are already a goal down. I'm not losing another game here by trying to be structured and by trying not to go 2 down, and staying in the game, and hopefully we can nick one. I think that mentality has to change. And I think if it hasn't, well, I'm fine going out structured. I want to see the players in the first 11 start to move the ball faster, start to run harder, start to press more. I want them to be pushed by the youngsters that are underneath them, because don't forget, that's their role. That's what the sub-squad's role is. The sub-squad's role is to come in, perform well, and put pressure on first-team players to perform to a higher level. I hope that those players start to do better. And I also think that there's an element here of where you may see one of those players get rewarded in the Man U. Not wholesale changes, but you might see one player get rewarded. I personally would drop Ceballos for his game against Leicester. I thought he was so bad, he didn't do what he was put there to do. He got a nosebleed every time he went beyond the fucking centre circle in a 3-man midfield, while Xhaka was playing left back and Partey was playing defensive midfield. I would maybe like to see, I would go and take someone like Joe Willock, he's just scored a spanker of a goal. Almost man of the match for me. I had Reece Nelson for man of the match. But I would go and reward him now, and I'd play that midfield 3 and maybe just put some pure running. Don't forget, the other thing is Thomas Partey has now, from what we've seen initially, has been played as a very solid central piece in that defensive midfield. I would like to see some running on one side of him. And if anyone has put themselves in the limelight to maybe be selected and give us some running out of midfield, it's that performance from Joe.
It's funny you mentioned Willock. I just want to I know he played a lot last night. They mentioned it in our commentary that we were listening to tonight, that Willock played a lot of minutes last year. I thought he was successively destroyed by our last couple of coaches. I don't know whether it was the beginning of last season. He had a fabulous pre-season, really fabulous. Looked like he was going to be the star coming through, and then got dropped for the first 3 games. My memory plays a few tricks on me, but I remember thinking, whoever the manager was, I think it was Emery, then decided, no, I'm going to go safe. And I just thought every time he played last year, he was under pressure. I just thought he was badly managed. Every time he got a game, he knew that if he didn't play well, he was going to get dropped. And that is not the way to improve as a footballer, especially as a young footballer. You've got to be told by a manager, look, you're going to play for the next month. You're going to play for the next 3 or 4 games. Do what you're doing. Carry on doing what you're doing. When they're put in at, they're in and out of the team. How do they get any confidence? I just want to also mention, before I come back to you, Liam, Thomas Partey was completely ineffectual in the Leicester game. Completely ineffectual. Was he rusty? Didn't he know his teammates? And I know you two said he shouldn't have played it against Manchester City. I still don't understand why he didn't. I know he'd only had a couple of days training, but we're trying to get him up to speed with our teammates. He's one of the best central midfielder we've got. Why not play him? Why not play him? And then maybe in the Leicester game, the players might have had a bit more confidence to give him the ball, because every time they looked at him, they passed to the side, they passed to Tierney, they passed out to Bellerin. They didn't give him the ball. Have they seen in training that he's actually not very good? I don't think so. But I just think that was a mistake. And he may, if he'd have played in that City game, maybe played for an hour in that City game and then brought him off, then he might have been a lot better and a lot more effectual in the Leicester City game. Liam, you got something to say?
Yeah, perhaps the reason is, and you touched on it briefly, is that it was less about Partey integrating with the team, but the team integrating with Partey. Because I saw the stats about who completed the most passes. Xhaka had 80 odd something passes. Partey played 44, I think it was. That's not right. And especially when Xhaka's playing at left back, and Partey's the one that's in the middle, so in theory should be dictating whether we go left, right, central. that can't be right. You can't do that. And Xhaka's 80-odd passes weren't great. They were going nowhere. Absolutely nowhere.
Don't we
So they've
need a
just
number 10 in that, Liam? Don't we need a number 10? I mean, Party, if you look at Party stats, and after Max last week, I actually signed up to StatZone as well for £3 for the season or whatever it was. I mean, I looked at Party stats. He played more balls backwards and sideways than he did forwards, you know? I mean, he was only ever given the ball where he didn't have much to do. You both told me about what a great ball carrier he was going to be. And you know, I didn't see any of it. He didn't make one carry forward in 90 minutes. Is that, you know, why should I get excited about Thomas Partey?
So to come back on that, yeah, I think...
And I'm not, sorry, I'll just say, this isn't a criticism of Thomas Partey. He's just joined the club. I will give him every ounce of support I've got. I'm just questioning, why should I get excited when what I've seen so far is an inferior version of El Neni?
Well, essentially... you had to get that one in there, didn't you? It again comes down to the trust thing for me. It's when Partey was looking to get the ball, he had a player on him, and we've gone, no, that's not very safe. Give it to Xhaka. We know Xhaka, but that's not good because Partey's skill is taking the ball on. So we've got to trust that when Partey gets it, he will turn and move away. So when he did get the ball, it wasn't in the space where he can turn and take one or two men out of the game and bypass them. It was in when he's got too much space and goes, well, there's fuck all going on ahead of me. I'll have to knock it to Sabas or Xhaka either side of me.
Yeah, but isn't he the one, Liam, that's meant to be carrying the ball forward to bring those players into play? We've watched Arsenal being very sterile, playing the ball left and right along the back, you know, knocking the ball out wide, knocking it to Tierney, knocking it to Bellerin. And what I've been told is that we need a player like Partey who's going to pick up the ball and he's going to look forward. He played more balls backwards and sideways than he did forwards. He didn't carry the ball
that was
forward.
The structures around him, though, Darren. I think if
got to move,
but
there's no movement in front of him.
Max, explain it to me. But what I'm saying is that isn't he meant to be the key that unlocks the door because he brings it forward? Lacazette, Aubameyang, all both hopeless, you know, up front, really, really terrible. No runs, no movement, no nothing.
Stale.
But if you've got then a ball carrier who's going to bring the ball forward to give them something. Or are they just standing around at the is Aubameyang and Lacazette, are they standing up there going, well, we know it's going to go back until it's given to Tierney by Luiz and then we'll run forward. You know, is that it?
I think if you're asking him to be a maverick, you know, and be a guy who's going to get on the ball and drop his shoulder and do someone, I think that would be an incorrect assessment of what he's going to do. I think with the movement being so poor, well, I mean, from a coaching perspective, you know, movement is about moving defenders around, which opens up space. So that's where you get those runs where people run from in to out and they're never going to get the ball. Or you saw tonight over and over again, really unseen, but Ainsley Maitland-Niles made the same run wide like 50 times. And it's to drag defenders out and get them out of shape. In that game, we just never took Leicester out of shape. And I don't think you can look at Partey and say, oh, well, he didn't carry the ball, because the whole aspect of carrying the ball, of being a ball carrier, is that you drive into space and you use your athleticism and you use your burst to drive into space, and that breaks the lines. There was never space in front of him. And like Liam said, when you've got Xhaka playing at left back, playing sideways balls, forward balls, and never actually coming into the centre, and then you have that really poor performance from Ceballos where I don't know what his mandate was or what he was attempting to do, but he didn't achieve anything of what he would attempt to do. You end up in these situations where you are in a team sport made up of the performances around you. And if you're expecting someone to do something off their own back, you know, like a Pepe, when he can have a terrible, terrible game and then just do something. I don't know that that's Thomas Partey's game. I think he's a structured player.
Isn't this the argument you're making tonight when you're saying you love the fact that Willock did this and Nelson took on players and Pepe showed a bit of flair and they all had desire? Isn't that what we're hoping from Thomas Partey?
But I think the difference is you didn't have one individual doing that. You had a group of them. You had 3 or 4 people all running, all passing and all moving, which destabilizes what's in front of them. It destabilizes a low block. This like almost like old-fashioned Dutch total football thing that Arsenal have been playing, this this mundane U shape of controlled possession where we move the ball to the wings slowly and then back to the middle and then back across and then back to the wings. And we sit there and try and probe. I don't think that makes Pepe look like a good player. I don't think that's going to make Partey look like a good player. I just don't think that it works for the types of players that are there. I think that you'll see Thomas Partey come into his own. I'll tell you what, I'll put this out there. If Partey plays in that game, instead of, say, El Neni or someone like that, I reckon you see Thomas Partey have a massive game because there was so much space and so much movement around him. But as long as we're playing in these kind of very boring possession-based teams, you're going to see very boring possession-based statistics. I think that's what you're seeing from everyone. And I still put it to you that if someone's got to be strung up for that, it's the two guys who are on the biggest wages who we paid the most for up front in Lacazette and Aubameyang.
I can't ignore your blasphemous comment then against Mohamed El Neni. Why didn't you take fucking Xhaka out?
I thought because Xhaka was playing fucking centre
back.
No.
You just said if you'd have played Thomas Partey instead of, say, El Neni.
In the position that El Neni played in this game, if you had Partey there,
why didn't you say instead of Xhaka? I mean,
because fucking Xhaka basically played centre
back.
You know what?
I watched that game. I watched that game for an hour before I realised that Xhaka was actually playing. I got home from work really late tonight. I got in at 2 minutes to 8, 2 minutes before kickoff. Didn't see the lineups. So I'm watching the game. I missed the first 30 seconds of the game. And I'm watching it and I'm looking at the lineups. I'm trying to see who's playing, who's you've got. And, you know, we were attacking. It's good. You know, I'm looking. I could see that Nelson's playing. I can see this. I can see that. And it was an hour in before I heard Xhaka mentioned. And yet you still say if he'd have taken El Neni out. And El Neni played again and we won again.
I thought El Neni had a very solid game. I wasn't taking El Neni out of the team for El Neni.
If Partey had played instead of El Neni.
I was taking El Neni out of the team for the sake of putting Partey in a comparable position where I think he would have been more effective.
Yeah, exactly my point. If we'd have put Partey in instead of Xhaka tonight, then I would have just brushed over it. But it has to.
I'm going to buy you an El Neni shirt and a fucking wig, and you can wear your El Neni shirt, your El Neni
Make
hair
sure
wig
it's
on every
an
podcast.
extra large. Okay, Liam, here's a question for you. I asked at the start of this show tonight, what did we learn? Did we learn two things about Ainsley Maitland-Niles? He really isn't any good in midfield, and we should have sold him for 20 million to Wolves.
Yes, though I slightly disagree, and no. Okay, he's not brilliant in midfield. I don't love him in midfield. I think he's just got too much pace and power where you want that on the sides. So no, he's not brilliant in midfield, and he's not the tidiest on the ball. But I thought he did his job perfectly fine. There were a couple of times where I think he looked frustrated.
You're both nodding away like a couple of dogs in the back of a car. You know, we've just talked about how Reece Nelson has made a name for himself, how Willock's been outstanding tonight, and Nketiah's got himself a goal. Pepe smashed one at the top corner. All of these players that we've actually said have actually had really good games. Maitland-Niles is in that group of players. He's on
Maitland-Niles has proven many times to us that when he is given a consistent run in a consistent position with a consistent job, he has found form. A run of games at right back, he found form to the point where we were saying he's the next person at right back. I am worried, and I have been worried for a long time, that the James Milner approach with Ainsley Maitland-Niles, that we're going to put you in the holes that we need at different times, is ultimately going to hurt his development.
All right, you answer whatever questions you like. Let me go back to the question that I actually asked. Did we learn tonight that Ainsley Maitland-Niles isn't very good in midfield?
He had a 6 out of 10 game for me. 6,
yeah,
7. I didn't think it was that bad.
I don't think he's useless in midfield. I just like him at fullback. I think he's got all the attributes to be a fantastic fullback. I don't like him in midfield, but he can do a job there. I don't think he's totally useless.
I'd give him a consistent run there before I threw him in the bin.
Let me rephrase the second part of that question. Should we have sold him to Wolves for 20 million and enable ourselves to make a bid for or whatever his name is instead?
Nope. No. Shouldn't have got Cedric. That was a lesson.
Well, that one was free.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you.
That one was free. Yeah, that one was free. I'm sure he's on a contract. So I'm sure he's earning money, but we didn't pay for that. That wasn't the question. Should we have sold Maitland-Niles for £20 million because he's a fringe player and is third choice right back and is third choice left back and is not very good midfield? Should we have sold him for 20 million and improved our midfield slightly?
No.
Still no. Just because A, I think he's too good at fullback, like I said, and B, he's a very young English player. Give him 2 or 3 years where he's played consistently very well in the first team, because I think he should be in the first team. And I think you'll see his value potentially goes to, in a post-COVID world as well, where we're not in this pandemic, I think his value goes up to potentially 40, 50 million. Why not?
He'll be a first-team player by the end of the season. Mark my words.
Okay, I look forward to that. So a 40, 50 million pound player when he's not gonna play. unless we're struck by injuries. You know, we've got Bellerin one side and Tierney the other. Is he better than Tierney?
Not at left back, no, but I think
is he better than Bellerin?
Yes. On his day.
On his day, come on.
50-50.
On his day. I'm better than Bellerin on his day.
When he was consistently played at right back last season, he was better than anything that Bellerin has produced in the last 2 seasons.
Bellerin's got more assists this year than Ozil got in the last season. Come on. How can you have a dig at Bellerin now? Bellerin's actually producing.
I thought it was Bellerin's best game in a couple of years. I said it on the Ask Bros. I thought it was Bellerin's best game in a couple of years against Leicester.
So let me ask the question again. Is Maitland-Niles going to get in ahead of Bellerin at the moment?
Yeah, by the end of the season he will.
You think he'll be right back by the end of the season?
By the end of the season. By the end of the season, he'll be our first starting right back.
Okay, I look forward to it. I mean, I'm not an anti Maitland-Niles. The question was, should we have made the £20 million because he's not being used this year? He wants to be a midfielder, and when he was played as a midfielder tonight, he was almost as anonymous as Xhaka. And now, okay, we were playing against a team.
I think he had that much of a bad game. I thought he did his job. He hasn't played a huge amount of football, so his touch was a little bit off. He had a scuff shot, but he's big, he's athletic, he ran into holes. He did a lot of work off the ball that goes, I don't know whether it's unappreciated or not, but a lot of runs off the ball that I wish Xhaka would make in midfield, because he actually has a motor and he gets up and he gets down, which means he destabilizes defenses. More athletes in the team and less passes, please. Less people who pad their fucking stats.
I thought he tracked back quite well, actually. I wasn't most impressed with what he did going forward, but I thought he tracked back quite well and didn't. Yeah, I mean, they didn't get at us. Of course they didn't, because they're not good enough. But there were times where they just picked his pocket and we just kept going. I thought he was the one that did that.
Because he's an athlete and he's built like a brick fucking shithouse. I would take him in that Xhaka position. Xhaka, for all arguments this season, everyone who's been like, he's been very, very solid, right? He offers very, very little outside of that solidarity. And if you look at the Leicester goal, who's the guy who gets done for the Leicester goal? It's Xhaka, again, getting turned, again. And you don't see that with Ainsley Maitland-Niles. So as much as maybe he's not going to be the perfect passer, high 80s in percentage, play amazing through balls, when you're stabilizing and you're building a midfield, we lack athletes and we lack runners in there. I would actually like to see him given an extended run in midfield. I think a midfield of Ceballos, Partey, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, even Ainsley Maitland-Niles or Joe Willock, like start giving someone a fucking go in there who's got some running, who's got some athleticism, will actually break a line, will move forward. Fuck these fucking starting 11 players who have done nothing for 5 games. Tear it up, Mikel.
Tear it up. You've just said already in the last 45 minutes of the podcast that he is structured us to have the second best defence in the Premier League because he's playing people like Xhaka at left back, Yeah,
but is that being that this is the question. Now that we've seen that for a period of time and we're looking at the success line of that, what we've done, and granted, Liverpool, City, Leicester, Man U next week, all very good teams, all teams who finished above us last season. But at some point, what I'm saying is you have to start making changes, Mikel. And I'm not saying tear the entire thing up. I'm talking about taking one person out and putting one person in who offers something different.
Okay. All right. Let's go back. Well, I've got just one comment I wanted to make. I see on Twitter quite a lot that this is more like George Graham's Arsenal as a derogatory term. I always say it's a positive term. I heard it again. Was it last night on the pod, or I've heard it a few times lately that this is like watching George Graham's Arsenal. Did either of you two ever watch George Graham's Arsenal?
Nope.
Only in highlights, mate.
I was born in 97. I wasn't around at the time.
This is just the point. For those listening who don't, and I'm not going to bore you with the past, this isn't old football was good in the good old days. George Graham took over an Arsenal team that was mid-table. A bit like Arteta has done, 8th. We were a mid-table side. We were Everton. And George Graham took that team, made them defensively really strong, and we nicked the odd goal up front because we had some terrific strikers, Alan Smith, Ian Wright. So 1-0 to the Arsenal was born on the back of George Graham's Arsenal. In 1991, we won the league only losing one game, away at Chelsea, a game I was at, when our captain was in prison, and Steve Boulder, who was the other centre-half, went off injured early in the game, if my memory serves me right. We were fabulous. We lost one game. You talk about the Invincibles, they were one game away from being Invincibles back in 91. So when people criticise George, it's like watching George Graham's football. What he did is what Arteta's doing. His first job was to make us defensively very, very solid. And then once he had a good defensive base, he added some sharp players and good flying wingers, good centre forward, and we started to win by the odd goal. And then he built on that. And we became a good side. So those of you who criticise, it's like watching George Graham. We loved watching George Graham because he made us win. And all we're missing at the moment, I think Arteta had all his luck last year, didn't he? Fuck's sake, those Arteta out people. We won the fucking FA Cup last year by beating Manchester City and beating Chelsea on the way. We're incredible. We won the fucking FA Cup. He's a winner. And we did ride our luck at times last year, beating Liverpool when they had about 160 shots against our one. So maybe he used up all his luck last year, and that's why things like the disallowed goal at the weekend, these things go around, come around.
And if his front three are on better form, and if they execute, and you don't have Aubameyang not scoring in 5, there were chances to win it against Liverpool that we didn't take. There were chances to nick it against City, and there were opportunities. 11 shots in the first, 11 opportunities in the first half against Leicester. No execution. So if goals go in, the thing that people have to look at is if these goals go in, then maybe actually we're sitting here having a different conversation if a few little things happen.
Yeah. Okay. On that disallowed goal at the weekend, don't want to go and review last weekend's game, but what were your thoughts, Liam? Was it penalty? Was it a goal? Or was it offside?
It was a goal.
Okay, Max, goal or offside?
I thought it was offside. I thought he obstructed. I thought he's standing in front of the keeper. If you're going to stand in front of the keeper and you're going to obstruct the keeper's line to make a save, then I think that it was fine to be chalked.
I was a goalkeeper. He was not obstructing him. Was not in the way of where the ball was going. Not obstructing for me.
I only bring it up because as somebody who doesn't want VAR in our game, doesn't matter. Referees' linesmen make mistakes. Do you know what?
Yeah, we had 86 more minutes to score.
Do you know what I'm saying is that we're watching it. It wasn't given. You get on with the game. Yeah. Now we have to wait for 3 minutes for it to go to VAR for them to say it was or it wasn't. Doesn't make the decision any better. Doesn't make us stop. Liam, you reckon it was a goal. Max, you reckon it was offside. I don't care. Get VAR out. We'd have forgotten about that incident by now because it wouldn't have been replayed 150 times. We wouldn't have waited 3 minutes for him to go, I don't know. Yeah, subjective decision. Let's get rid of that VAR cancer from our game and allow us to just watch football and enjoy it when goals are scored and call referees cunts when they get it wrong. That's what football is. Can I just mention that on tonight's game? Again, back to my what did we learn from tonight? Didn't you learn that all referees, even European ones, are just cunts? Did you get the fact that, you could get fucking kicked to pieces every time we tried to tackle someone, it was a foul, and yet Willock gets his fucking shirt taken off his back as he's running into the area, and the referee plays it on.
I actually thought there was a penalty shout for us very early on. I thought that when Nketiah in the first 10 minutes gets kicked from behind and cartwheeled as he's I was standing there, I was like, that is a penalty every day. You've come in from behind him, you've taken his foot from behind. But the funny thing was, the commentator said nothing. He's just like, Nketiah cartwheeled to the ground. And I'm like, that is every day a fucking penalty.
Sorry, maybe I just should add referees and commentators are cunts.
Yeah.
What about that one? I don't want to big up El Neni. But the tackle he made a sliding tackle, nicked the ball cleanly, went through into the area for something to run on, and the referee pulled it back for a free kick. And you think,
yeah, well, unfortunately, football's not a contact sport anymore, guys.
Yeah.
It's become less and less of a contact. I go back to like when I very early started watching football, like players like Stuart Pearce, whose sole purpose in the first 30 to 45 seconds of a game was to put stud marks in someone's thigh. And the refs would be like, oh, it's okay. It's in the first 5 minutes, Stuart. Don't worry about it. You know?
Do you know what was hilarious? I thought Eddie's goal was going to be ruled out as well. That's how awful. The penalty zone was, besides those two incidents specifically, was a you can't touch anyone else zone. I could have sworn Eddie's goal was going to be ruled out.
Can I just say, though, tonight there was no VAR and we're just arguing about football, you know?
Yeah, I loved it. I love it when there's no VAR.
This is my point, is that we're arguing about those decisions. Let's just say that, you know, one of those had been overturned. If we'd have just waited, it wouldn't have made much difference, would it? Wouldn't have made any difference. As a supporter, you want to cheer when a goal goes in and you want to get angry with a referee or a linesman when they get something wrong. That's football. Not sitting about for 2 or 3 minutes while eventually they'll put advertising breaks in while it's being discussed. It's just not football.
I still think you fix VAR if you give them a 30-second or a 45-second shot clock. It happens in the background, right? It and play on. And if after 45 seconds, the ball won't have even been kicked by the keeper in 45 seconds. You put a 45-second shot clock, not 3 minutes, not 5 minutes. Let them celebrate. If it gets chalked off, it gets chalked off. If that's the lesser of two evils, it's the lesser of two evils.
What did we learn from tonight? I'm going to come to you on this, Liam. What did we learn from tonight? Did we learn that we've actually got a very tidy new reserve goalkeeper?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he did anything after the 10th minute of the game, but nice save low down to his right, and he caught the corner perfectly well, looked confident, and bowled it out quite nicely to Nelson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I just got to say, I looked at him. Looks like a goalkeeper. Yeah. Handling was excellent. Limited, you know. I mean, just we only saw, you know, you're right, 10, 15 minutes of him today.
Well, look, he didn't make a mistake, so he's definitely better than Leno. We should definitely fucking sell Leno because Runnison, mate, one game, no mistakes. Whoa, what a player!
The mighty Dundalk. No, I'll tell you what else I learned. He doesn't look 25. He looks like he's just 25. Got out of school. He looks like he's just got out of his GCSEs.
19, 20, yeah.
Yeah. I did not. I looked at him and I went, nah, you're not 25, mate. I'm 23 and I look at least 5 years older than you.
Couple of things while we're on how much we hate referees. Watch Manchester City at the weekend. You know, they do this deliberate fouling where to stop teams breaking away. Did you watch that incident at the weekend where, I can't remember who it was, grabbed hold of, did they play Everton at the weekend? Grabbed hold of his arm, dragged him back, and it was Rice, West Ham, wasn't it? It was Rice. Declan Rice was having his arm grabbed from behind as they're trying to break away, and he managed to drag himself away from the challenge and set up a West Ham attack. Commentator, me, everyone who's watching going, the referee, great advantage, but he's going to pull that back and book him. Didn't, you know? If you're not going to book players, you know, he had his arm, you know, in an arm lock. Can you say that?
I think the Premier League has to address this. I think they've got to address it soon, this rotational fouling. To take it to a different code, just very quickly to give you some context. I know no one cares about rugby league, and I try and bring it up in every podcast because me and Tezza love it. But we had this issue in rugby league a couple of years ago with rotational fouling, where what they would do is they would just all make the fouls at different times, right? And what they did is they brought it in and they said, if you do this once, twice, 3 times, the third person, I don't care if he hasn't made a foul in the game, I'll send him off.
Oh, okay. See, I had it down here, sin bin. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, well, similar. But basically they said, we will send him off as a team collective because if we deem it to be deliberate, which means we're just giving away fouls, but we're doing it rotationally, we're doing it without players, they'll let one go, they'll let 2 go, and then they'll go up to the captain and they'll say, next person who does what we consider to be a professional foul, a deliberate foul, not a foul in going for the ball, but a foul in deliberately stopping someone from running because they're getting away from you, we will send that person off and you'll be down to 10 men and you will drive it out of the fucking game so fast.
Yeah. Liam, you wanted to say something on that?
Yeah, Max has hit the nail on the head because having been there as a referee myself, we know against Brighton, Basuma How the fuck he didn't get booked is beyond me. Except having been the man in the middle, yes, we know as fans because we're only watching the fouls that Brighton are doing. Bissouma does make a lot of fouls, and there's occasions where somebody else has done it in between. The referee is looking at both sides. It's so easy to forget. It's so easy to lose track. I think he's only done a couple, and you spread it across the rest of the teams, and that's how you end up getting away with it.
Let VAR fucking talk in the referee's ear then and say,
Yeah,
third time they've done that, ref, do something about it. Have a word.
You know, I mentioned sin bins. I've never been a fan. I actually think it just gives a player a rest. Games will get boring because 11 against 10 can be. But I think for rotational fouls, it's one of those things, you know, just get them off the pitch for 15 minutes, because if they try and do it a second time, they're down to, 9. They do it a third time because that's how Manchester City work. And it might just encourage teams to really try and counter-attack while teams are down to 10 men, because they won't be able to do it again. I just think something chalk, sharp, shot for that one thing that's wrong, that one offence, that fouling that we're talking about, for that one offence, if they did it for that and just brought it in for that, just as a trial.
All we want is consistency. Yeah. Do you remember when Xhaka got sent off for what game was it? Yeah. Was it 2 years ago when he just swept the leg away? And it was like Man City do that. Man City do that 10 times a game, and he gets sent off. You know.
And since then, Xhaka hasn't tackled again since. Yeah. What else? I did have one more thing I wanted to talk about. Can't find it now. Anybody else?
No.
What else did we learn from tonight? That was me theme all the way through, but I've forgotten now what I was talking about. I know what I wanted to talk about. Just a brief one. Bigging up last night's Clock End Talk review show again, where the boys went a bit crazy on Arteta. And I will just say that Jack was the one guy that was trying to say, well, you know what? We weren't that bad in the first half against Leicester. You know, he was trying to stand his corner against the three bullies that were attacking him last night. So big up for that. But then they gave me some shit last night when I was moaning about £15 for a ticket to watch pay-per-view in this country. £15. I think they sort of got the wrong end of the stick with me, and I just want to clarify this point. I'm not saying that I can't afford £15, or I'm so old I don't know how to get a stream. I have streams. I've got it. I've sorted it. I've got everything to watch everything. What my point was, it is driving people like me to get illegal streams, where if they reduce the price, then people might buy it through the recognised channels and the clubs might make some money.
You might also be more inclined to watch a team that's not Arsenal because you go, it's only a £5. I'll watch that other game that's on.
We said last night on the Ask Bros Extreme, either if you're going to keep it at £15, you have to make it more than a game. You have to put enough content in there that it makes it more than a game, that it's valuable, whether there's going to be pre-shows, post-shows, interviews, backstage passes. They do it very well in the NFL in America. You get all sorts of access for your money, or, you can sign up to it. And as an Arsenal fan, you get something extra through arsenal.com. But definitely almost everyone we have spoken to has said it was too much. And Kenny Ken, who I love, follow Kenny Ken on Twitter. It's one of my favorite guys to follow on Twitter. He found the stats for the viewership, and it was incredibly low. And I said, I guarantee you, if you went and looked at the numbers for the illegal streams, they'd have been through the fucking roof.
They had one opportunity to drive people towards football and towards the recognised channels and to make money for the clubs, and they've messed that chance up. Although
imagine how many people would have bought it at a £5.
My point.
Everyone would have bought it at a £5.
I paid 80. I didn't, obviously, but I've sold 3 in the last week. Yeah, so for £80, that's people would rather do that than pay £15 for a game.
I think they'll drop it. I think they'll look at the viewership, and I think you'll see it get dropped. I think it'll come down to a tenner, maybe even just less than a tenner, like $9.99 or something like that.
That was in the press today. I read a long article about it today, and they're talking about reducing it to $9.95 because it just hasn't worked.
Yeah.
They're not.
And a tenner's it's weird, right? You throw away a tenner. It's just something strange that's in our brain. Like someone says, "Oh, I bet you a tenner for a game of pool." You're like, "Oh yeah." Let's stick a tenner on there. It's a throwaway number. I don't think a £5 was right. I don't think that's enough money. But I think there's a middle ground between what people are saying and 15 quid. People just start adding it up in their heads. like you said, Darren, and we were talking to some of our other mates on other platforms who go to the game, and they said the same thing as you. Fergus on Guns in the Room was saying, it's 120 quid for him to go to a game. By the time he's been pissed before the game, pissed after the game, had a kebab, got on the train, got to the game, plus his seat. So it's not that it's too much, because a lot of you guys are spending a huge amount less money going to the football, but it's about the inherent value inside that figure. What you get from the football when you go, the entirety of the experience makes up why you spend that money, not sitting on the fucking couch in your pants.
Another option would be to make it £15 and you get all the pay-per-view games that weekend. I only want to watch Arsenal, but you know what? I might have actually watched one of the others, although I might have watched one of the others, Oh, they've already been a meeting. Schwinn, that man in the know, there's already been a meeting. They've decided to keep it at $14.95.
I saw that, but when I posted it in our WhatsApp group, I think MAA Gunner pointed out that it was only until the end of the month or something.
Did MAA Gunner say it's only till the end of the month? And why don't we talk about why Ozil should be playing?
Wondered if it would work into the conversation. I read the first bit. I didn't see if there was a second bit, if I'm honest.
Okay. Look,
very
guys,
good, Darren. Well done.
Unless you've got anything else to talk about, it's very late tonight. I've got a real busy day tomorrow. Anyone got anything else they want to bring up tonight?
No, I just have a statement. And then I'll be done. If Mikel Arteta doesn't learn or start learning from the mistakes, not the mistakes he's made, but the way that the game, that it's structuring and it's panning out this season, if he doesn't learn from what we've just seen on the weekend, what we've just seen today, then all of this excitement is for nothing. And if we go and we play incredibly boring football against Man U and don't get out of second gear, I think you're going to start seeing some real vitriol. I actually think Arsenal fans around the world would rather go to Man U and give it a red hot go and lose than go there and have another very structured game and walk out of it at the end and say, well, we lost 1-0, but we had opportunities. So it's a very important game this weekend for Mikel Arteta.
Once more, I absolutely agree with you, Max. I really, really do agree with you. I would rather us go there and lose fighting to win than to go there as we did against Manchester City. But just to counter that, and just in support of Mikel Arteta, if at Manchester City the game plan nearly worked, we missed 2 or 3 really good chances, and then that game could have been completely different. If we'd have taken one of our early chances or had a good goal allowed against Leicester City, it would have been a really different game. He's been a little bit unlucky. He's struck
fine margins.
But we didn't, and the pressure is building on him now, and I feel like he needs to take this opportunity to relieve that pressure, and I don't think he needs to win to relieve the pressure. I think he needs to show the Arsenal fans that he's got it, that he can do it, and they can go out and run.
Yeah. Can I just, Liam, if you want to talk, I'll come back to you, but let's just put that on the players. Why is this all down to Mikel Arteta? Are we not saying if fucking Aubameyang doesn't start putting some effort in, if Lacazette doesn't, if Ceballos has another poor game, if we've got Kieran Tierney, and that's about it at the moment.
If Aubameyang has another poor game, I would be borderline looking to put him on the bench just for a game, just to say it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how big you are, your form is poor.
Yeah. Liam, anything to add before we finish up?
No, I just think Man United's a big game. Exactly like Max said, but just as a club, we need to break this duck, because every time we play away at the top 6, I get thrown this fucking stat about not beating anyone away since 2015.
Didn't we beat someone at the end of last year?
Not away from home.
Okay.
I just want us to break that duct, and then we can all shut the fuck up about it.
Come on, Liam. It's Arsenal. They'll say only managed to win one away game against the top 6 in the last since 2015.
You are great defensively. I think they're a decent team going forward. If ever there was a game to say we're going to play slightly less structured and put lots and lots of moving pieces on the board, it would be this game. And I hope there's just one. I just want to see one curveball. Whether it's starting in midfield or a Reece Nelson gets rewarded for this game, one curveball, change it up. If for nothing else, to let that first 11 know that your position is not solidified, you do not own that role, you don't own that position. And if your form is shit, I've got plenty of young kids coming up behind you who just went and smashed it in the Europa League.
So how disappointed will you be if the lineup is Lacazette in the middle, Aubameyang on the left, and Willian on the right?
Yeah, I will be. I will be, because I think it sends the wrong message to the squad at the moment. I think you have to reward people for playing well, Dundalk or not.
Did you think he brought Pepe off tonight because he was resting for Manchester United?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's hope
You've got to play Pepe when he's hot. If Pepe starts getting hot, you saw at the end of last season, when he got hot, he started smashing in goals. The other thing is, didn't you notice again, I keep saying it, Pepe is very dangerous from the centre circle. He's very, very dangerous from the penalty spot. Not starting there, not having his starting position be there, but when he makes that out to in and he arrives at the penalty spot late, reeks of Aaron Ramsey and what we've missed for so long, which is someone arriving late for cutbacks when we've got numbers in the box.
Just for the sake of balance, what about that corner that he hit at full pace into the side netting?
Oh, awful.
Okay. I was just saying at the time in the group as well, Pepe really looks on it. He really wants a goal. He's looking sharp. He's looking secure. Then he goes and fucking does that. And I went, yeah, serves me right, doesn't it?
Didn't he look happy as well? Like, have you noticed with Pepe, there's a body language. There's a body
needs to feel good
with him.
He just needs to feel good.
Did you see when he started to get on the ball? It's not even just his face. Like, his shoulders go back, his chest puffs out. He starts moving the ball and doing things quickly. You know, he's got to play. He's got to play. Willian on the bench, Pepe on one side. I would love to see us play Aubameyang through the middle.
Hang on.
I'm doing it for the sake of changing things, Darren, because it's not working for him on the left and you can't persevere. So you have to give him an opportunity to change it. I would love to see a front three of Reece Nelson on the left, Aubameyang through the middle, and Pepe on the right.
Where
That's
would
what
you
I'd
play
like.
Saka? Saka in the left of midfield?
I'd play him.
Midfield.
I assume he's still going to play three at the back, and I assume he'll play Tierney in that left three driving forward, and he'll play Saka in front of him. That left side, if we had Tierney, Saka, and Nelson down that left side, all moving the ball quickly, all passing and moving, I think that's an excitement machine for me.
I'm just making a note here. Go back 3 episodes and find that recording of Max saying that Aubameyang should never play down the middle. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I said I don't like him down the middle. I said I don't think that's where he's best suited. But he has done the sum total of fuck all for 5 games. He's on £300,000 now. We have to at least try something different to give him an opportunity. And Lacazette is terrible.
Only thing I will say.
Go on, Liam.
I was going to say, only thing I will say, he was fucking dreadful in the middle against Leicester as well.
No,
There's a clip going round. He was awful.
Yeah, I'm just saying you maybe have to find a different place to carry him at the moment. We're carrying on the left at the moment.
The bench.
Yeah. Well, after
Bring
this,
Balogun on.
He's just signed up. He's just signed up for a 3-year new contract at $300,000 a week, or whatever we're led to believe. That shouldn't make him undroppable. It should not. If he's not,
I tell you what, Darren, if he
goals,
goes into the middle and he starts a game in the middle and he's bad, it will do 2 things. It will quieten down everyone who's saying he has to be played through the middle, and it will also give Arteta a solid reason to say, you're going to go onto the bench for a game. I'm going to try something different and give someone else a go that might give him the rev up that he needs. It solves multiple problems. If he goes in the middle and he's successful and he scores a double, people like me who said don't like him through the middle go, hands up, sorry, it worked in this game. If he goes on there and he does nothing, it means he's been crap off the left, crap out of the middle. It gives Arteta a reason to say you've had ample opportunities. It's time to sit down for a week or 2.
So if he plays well, then we go back to my comments 3 weeks ago and you say, Darren, absolutely, you're right. You are a genius.
Yeah. If it happens, Darren, we start El Neni every game, Aubameyang through the middle, everything.
I've got to say, since every game El Neni's played, we've won.
We'll sell Ainsley Maitland-Niles. We'll do all the Darren things.
No, sorry. My question was, should we have sold him to Wolves and bought our instead? Didn't say I believe we should. I just said, should we? Anyway,
you never know what Darren thinks. You never know whether he thinks it or whether he's just putting it up for debate.
He thinks the opposite of what we said.
On that note, I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight on Thursday Night Live. It's a bit of a shorter show tonight, but it's very late and I've got to go to bed.
It's Friday morning here.
Yeah, well, you've got to go to bed. I've got a real busy day, playing golf very early. All right. Oh, do you know what? I jumped off a ladder today and landed on basically a nail. I've been right up as well. I look like Jesus Christ. So not only am I a prophet, I actually look like one tonight. I look like I've been hammered to the cross. Right, on that note,
I'm playing golf at 11 a.m. and then I'm off to work. So it's a good day for me.
Max, I might actually, now they've opened you up, not you.
See what's inside. It's cold, trust me.
Very little, yeah. Looks like I'm going to be coming out to Indonesia in the very near future. So maybe I'll make that little step and we'll do one of these live from your bar. How about
Amazing, Dazza.
Do that live from the bar. Guys, thanks ever so much for joining us. You can catch Max on his fabulous podcast at the Arse Brothers. They do 3 or 4, very, very good, all of them. And Liam at Gronin Guna.
Get better every week. Getting better every week.
Got it right. At Gronin Guna. That sounds like Tez. Sorry, lads. Haha. I'll have to catch up as I forgot. Tez has joined us as we're saying goodbye. In fact, Tez called me a cunt on yesterday's podcast. I don't know where that came from.
Well, I've got to say, I agree with him, Darren.
You're not alone. You're not alone. I'm Darren. You can catch me on Twitter at Deliguna, where I don't post anything. But I do read occasionally. Thanks very much for joining us this week, lads, and we'll catch you all at the same time next week.